Kusunoki Tomori found her love for anime at an early 8th grade when she first watched Kobato and fell in love at first sight with Hanazawa Kana, the voice of the main character. She watched the show with a friend, and it was at that point when they both decided on a dream together: to become a voice actress. Yet she took quite the unusual path to get there. Unlike many others, she never attended any voice acting school or had any official training before debut. She simply began practicing on her own, going online doing tongue twisters, watching anime without the audio, and practicing the lines and the like. And when the time came, at the age of only 16, she applied for an audition at Sony Music Artists, one of the most prestigious agencies in Japan. Except she applied for the audition for singers, not voice actors. Why? Well, two reasons. One, she had no prior official experience in voice acting, and well, she was aware most people just fail at the first stage of the audition at that point. Two, yes, she wanted to become a voice actress, but to be broader, her dream was just to have a job related to anime, and she loved music, so she would have loved to be an anisong singer as well. Spoiler alert, she ends up doing both. Winning the special award, Tomori fantastically passes the audition and officially debuts as a voice actress. So apparently, during the audition, she did tell Sony Music Artists that she also wanted to be a voice actress. So when she passed the audition and joined the agency, they were like, "So, you wanna be a voice actress?" And she was like, "Yeah." The end. The shift strats, they worked! Tomori then very quickly, at the young age of 17, debuted as a voice actress in everyone's favorite, Ero Manga Sensei. Okay, as a background character. I've talked about how many voice actors in Japan really struggle in their early years of voice acting, barely finding any roles, but Tomori was truly a prodigy. In the same year of her debut, she already immediately got her first main character role in Marchen Machen, which was a train wreck in its own right. But her popularity skyrocketed in the same year when it was announced that she got the role of Len in Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online and Setsuna in Love Live Nijigasaki, main characters in two of the biggest anime multimedia franchises. And she did all of this with zero formal training before she even graduated high school. Like, what? She even sang the banger ending of GGO. It's so good it's insane. When the anime/projects released in 2018, GGO and Love Live did exceptionally well, and the early stepping stones of her career were quickly building up to be something big. She started getting role after role: Anima Yell, Revenue Starlight, Assassin's Pride, Demon King Academy, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Decadence, Wonder Egg Priority, Spirit Chronicles, My Senpai is Annoying, all main character roles. By the way, to anyone who watched, she's also the psychopath in the traumatizing episode of Majo no Tabi Tabi. Love Live Nijigasaki's mobile game, Love Live All-Stars, was even doing far better than expected, leading to the group getting a full anime and concerts on bigger and bigger stages, eventually performing in huge domes. However, while her career was explosively rising, something concerning was festering behind the scenes. In 2021 spring, Tomori officially announced that she had a genetic disorder that caused her to feel joint pain when dancing or doing any rigorous activities. This would grow to be a problem as Love Live, an idol franchise, required a lot of vigorous dancing. It was particularly bad as Setsuna, as her songs are mainly rock, and well, are some of the most intense in the entire franchise. She continued to participate as part of the group in concerts, but in a limited degree. For example, she would either stand on the side cheering, only mildly dancing in group songs, or just entirely not be in them, only performing Setsuna's solo songs. And in these solo songs, her movement was drastically reduced compared to before, sometimes just walking down the catwalk waving at fans while singing. Honestly, from what I can see, most of us grew to be okay with this. We were just happy that Tomori could continue to participate as Setsuna. But the same can't be said for Tomori. To her, it was frustrating to not be able to perform with her comrades, to always be watching from the sidelines, to be the one holding back Setsuna, a character she deeply loves, unable to give a performance that she deserves. After about a year and a half, it was announced that the condition Tomori was officially diagnosed with was Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a genetic disorder with currently no known cures. There are many different types, some more serious than others, others. Some affect lifespan and some don't. It's pretty complicated and we don't know which type exactly she has. But one thing is for sure, since there is no cure, she wouldn't ever be able to dance or move like she used to, at least in the near future, as doing so would worsen her condition and doctors strongly advised against it. Therefore, alongside this announcement, by her own volition, she said that she would be retiring from the role of Yuki Setsuna. This was absolutely devastating. I need you to understand that despite the rise in her voice acting career, Tomori was still widely known as Setsuna, and many of her longtime fans, myself included, became fans through Setsuna. She was Setsuna. Setsuna was even in the Love Life community known to have one of the most powerful voices in the entire franchise, and not having Tomori as Setsuna just felt wrong. But there was nothing we could do. With one final concert in February 2023 that I spent an ungodly amount of money going to, she officially retired her role as Setsuna. Many of her fans were also worried about her condition. Was she okay? How would this affect her future roles? Well, despite this period of despair, she could still voice, just not dance, and her voice acting career was booming more than ever. Right before this announcement, Tomori was casted as Makima from Chainsaw Man, an enormous role that would bring her into more mainstream anime, such as Shizuka from Zom 100. I'm not going over all the main roles, there are way too many, but Tomori also has a very strong gacha game presence. Since 2020 actually, she's been Kanade from Project Sekai, a main character and vocalist for one of the most successful rhythm games ever, even getting a movie next year. And then she's Viper from critically acclaimed ass, in a good way, game Nikkei. But to this day, there is one role that really stands out to me, Firefly from Honkai Star Rail. While I doubt she was chosen for this reason, Firefly has a condition called entropy loss syndrome, a genetic disorder that causes her mind to slowly dissociate with her body. This illness has stopped her from doing many things she's wanted to, yet she continues to fight on, looking for a cure. I know, her condition is completely fictional, but to me, it almost seems eerily similar to how Tomori has to deal with her chronic illness. The way Tomori basically had to dissociate with her character, the way she had to watch others from backstage, do what she cannot. I know she chose to let go of Setsuna of her own volition, but it can't be easy, and watching Firefly's whole story unfold just really made me feel that for Tomori, especially because while successful as ever on the outside, things were not always so bright on the inside. In case you forgot, Tomori first applied for the singer auditions, and she is indeed an artist under Sony Music Artists. While she did first debut as a voice actor, she couldn't just give up on her other dream, being a singer. So with the support of her teacher at her vocal school at the time, she started writing and composing her own songs, performing her original songs at regular acoustic lives organized by the school. Given her intense background in music, having learned the piano as a young child, the trumpet in elementary and middle school, then starting the guitar after her debut, it's no surprise that songwriting would naturally come to her, with very unique songs different from the generic J-pop you hear everywhere. Tomori mentioned being bullied in middle school, and you can tell. These feelings of depression were burned into the lyrics of her early indie day songs. She poured her experiences of despair into them, I'll tell you that much. But it was good music, and very unique. Her talents quickly paid off, and her dream came true in a mere 3 years, when she had her major debut as an artist under Sony Music Artists with her debut album Hamidashimono, the banger ending of the Misfit of Demon King Academy. That was it. Both her dream of becoming a voice actress and a singer had come true. She had made it, yet it came at quite the cost. See, she debuted in 2020 after COVID took off. Japan had some pretty heavy restrictions at that point, so there were many things she dreamt of doing as an artist that she just couldn't. Her first few lives after debuting ended up being online concerts with no live audience, and even after in-person lives started to be allowed, chanting was still prohibited, standing was prohibited, and the audience had to just sit there. It's like a dream that came true but didn't really. Remember, she was starting to feel the joint pain in 2021, and in the year after, 2022, she was diagnosed with her chronic illness. Obviously, this would affect how she could move around, even in her own lives. In other words, by the time COVID restrictions were completely lifted, by the time she could do her first proper live, she was already diagnosed and had the massive movement restrictions. And you could imagine this being pretty depressing. I remember at one of her lives, Tomori mentioned that she was on the verge of just quitting during COVID. It was honestly heartbreaking to hear. It was as if the dream she was chasing all this time had lost all its meaning. And that feeling can be soul-crushing. A look into her song lyrics even now could still paint these feelings. Not all, but some of the lyrics are pretty depressing, with contemplations on the meaning of life, recollection of terrible experiences, and even some pretty horrible self-deprecation. She mentions that her most recent album contains her true negative feelings, no filter. The album in question contains this song. Despite what I've said about her music, it's actually a really big contrast to how she portrays herself on camera, as on shows, she's literally known for a super bright giggly laugh. She also generally has a very positive attitude when she talks about life, known for her famous quote, "The best revenge is becoming happy." Also, she's like really good friends with Nijika seiyuu, so, you know, the angel part, you know, I'm just saying. Which side of her reigns as her true feelings? No one knows. Perhaps both. But all I can say is, I'm glad she didn't quit. I'm glad she stayed to voice more amazing characters, write more amazing songs. Despite continuing to fight her chronic illness, she has found an amazing way to make her lives work, creating a base theme for each one and basing both the live visuals and the setlist on this theme. For example, sitting and singing amidst a horde of candles. Look at this, it's so beautiful! If Tomori's story can serve as a lesson, it's to persevere. There will be times when you feel like your dreams have been destroyed, like there's no other path. But if someone with a chronic illness can find a path to make her dream work, you can too. So my friend, if you're facing difficult times, I may not know what you're fighting, but believe me when I say there is a way out. Find your path. You got this.